we're about 5 days into it at the moment. We made a fair bit of progress. Matthew's been working on it pretty flat out, while I've been ingesting secondhand vape smoke from this Impreza over here. We got this eBay intercooler. It's I think they call it a Mustang twin turbo intercooler or something. It's huge, cheap. It's sort of the layout that we wanted. We already decided that's how we were going to do it. So we've actually just had to customise the front of the car to work around the intercooler. So the bonnet latch was actually mounted to the cooler because it's a bar and plate unit, so it's tough as. It's probably 10 times stiffer than the original sheet metal that was in the front here was. So that's done. It just needs another support bracket that'll come down and meet up with down here somewhere. I don't know, Matthew will sort that out. He's a gun. It's mounted to this top panel and mounted to the lower support. So it's probably stiffened the front of the car up considerably just by itself. We've just used a single 45 bend here that's come straight out of the original hole. It just had a single outlet that you would slip on a silicone to, so that's been welded directly to it. Goes straight to the throttle. It's got this bellowy joint here, so any engine movement, which there won't be any anyway because it's got Shacklebush mounts, is accounted for, so we don't fatigue the pipe. The radiator is a problem that we've created for ourselves. We knew it was going to happen, so we gave a little trim of the original radiator to see if we could squeeze it in there, and we've decided it's not going to happen. So I spent an hour or so going through the radiator catalogue yesterday with our measurements of what we can fit, and we came up with a BMW 520D radiator, which is actually all aluminium originally, so that'll allow us to cut and weld different outlets on it if we need to. The outlets are in a pretty good spot, so it probably won't need much at all, but it's low, thick, and exactly the right length to fit between our chassis rails. So that's going to work well. We just ordered that, so that'll be here in the next day or so. Once we've got that, we'll be able to finish off this sort of front end arrangement. The turbos are on the way. We're just getting some GT30s. This is just some stuff I had lying around we're using as a mock-up. The final flange weld is not done yet because we're going to wait till we get the actual turbos so we can set them up and make sure everything's sort of linear, so it looks nice. Then we can do dump pipes. We don't know what the outlet flange of the turbos are yet because they're a bit of a lucky dip. So we're waiting to get those before we order our flanges. Then we can start on the dumps and continue on with the rest of the exhaust system. I've stripped the wiring, fixed a couple of things. The wiring looms get a bit baked with age. Just had to cut off a couple of bad connections and put new crimps on. Fixed all that up, so I'll rewrap that and make it all look nice. Reroute a few things because we've got no MAF sensor and the air temp sensor will be here instead of over there now. So we just reroute that sort of stuff. And then engine will come back out again. Clutch, we'll seal everything up, throw it back in again for good.
Hey man.
What do we got?
I come bearing gifts.
Nice, nice man. Sweet.
I also got some flange on the way, so good to go. Let's make some dump pipes.
Awesome man. Offer these up, eh?
The turbos we are using are a pair of GT 3076s ordered straight off eBay. With quick delivery and only $200 each, we saw no reason why not to use them. The driver's side manifold had to be slightly modified, and once it's in place, Matt bolts up both turbos and double checks that he's happy with how they are sitting. there was just enough room to squeeze a few 3-inch mandrel bends down and out the driver's side. But on the passenger side, things were a little tighter. Matt has cut up some straight 3-inch pipe at an angle so he can make his own lobster back bend, which gives him a tighter radius to work with. Matt has remade the front section of his wheel arches and fixed a few rust spots on the way. He has also folded up his own reinforcement plates that he is welding in between the strut towers. Using 2-inch alloy piping, only a couple of mandrel bends are required on both sides. With a slight trim and quickly TIG welded, both outlets from the turbo are fed straight into the bottom of the intercooler core.
Matt's been going pretty hard on the fabrication stuff in his time off. He had a couple of weeks off work. He's had to go back to work now, so I'll just give you a bit of an update about where we're at. He's got all the turbo manifolds made. We've sort of moved them around and chopped them up and changed it a little bit because we've got the right turbos now instead of the dummy ones that we had. We've still got to put wastegates on it, but he's managed to squeeze 3-inch dump pipes into it, which is good because we thought we'd probably only get 2.5 inch. But, he got stuck into it and cut out the engine bay and plated a few things in. He's pretty handy with the tin. So he's also made these reinforcement bits on it. These things aren't very strong, even though people think they're the greatest car on earth. All this was all bent from being crashed and from having 10 different intercoolers and engines fitted to it and holes drilled in it everywhere. And so the whole thing's been cut out and it's now got some new pieces welded in with the right hole for the job with a bead around it. Just fixing a rust seam here, which these things also rust pretty bad. So finish the rest of that off once the engine comes back out and then we'll paint the bay. This has got a nice little rolled edge on it. It's all pretty neatly done. That's how Matt rolls. So the next step for us is we'll get the gates on and that sorted out, and then the engine can come back out again, and then we'll sort the engine bay. We're still waiting for a radiator, which has got eBay forgotten. So when that turns up, we can sort that out as well. It's probably best to do that before the engine comes back out again, so you're not dinging it into fresh paint. So wastegate wise, we've got some GFB stuff, which has just arrived. So we'll crack that open and have a look at them because they're pretty sweet looking things. Got a pair of gates and a big blow-off valve because Matt loves to make noise. A fuel pressure reg, and we've also got an electronic boost controller which we need to run alongside the factory ECU because the original ECU obviously hasn't got any boost control capability because it's not originally a turbo engine. So we got the G-Force 2 controller, which is a pretty cool thing. We'll talk about that a bit later. I was waiting for the controller to get here so I can integrate the wiring for that in with the engine loom, so you haven't got add-ons everywhere. So I'll lay it over inside and it'll all be part of the main loom, just going to the solenoid. So let's crack that open and have a look.
So it's just overnight parts from Sydney.
Overnight parts from Sydney, yeah. Which is amazing because freight companies aren't that good at it. So our pressure reg, So we got a dash 6 reg because we're going to run a deadhead system again, which the LS1 is deadhead as standard, so that works for us. So it's got AN fittings on it, and it's also got a couple of pressure ports so you can run a gauge and a ECU sensor if you need that. So that's a good thing. They even got a gauge. Sweet. This looks like a boost controller. Look at that. Idiot proof. This is all made in Australia in Sydney, or designed in Australia. It's good stuff. Very good range of products. There's our little unit that you mount on your dash. We'll go into that later when we set it up, but it's got some good stuff on it. Ooh, nice. AX44, so 44mm in and out. One each turbo. Plumb back, of course, because legalities. All the good stuff.
Matt tack welds the wastegate entry pipes into place. The driver's side is a simple, small straight join, while the passenger side requires a small bend to get it into the required spot. The bend is then cut off, and using some of Dave's special hole saw cream, a passage is cut into the manifold for the wastegate entry. The BMW 520D Radiator arrived, so Matt jumps into modifying it. It's a full alloy unit, so modifications are very easily made. With a little bit of measuring and planning, Matt can make up the mounts required to fit it in underneath the intercooler outlet pipe. Matt bends up a test piece of alloy sheet using his homemade pan brake. After confirming that his measurements are correct, he folds up 2 more lengths and welds them together. This is used as the base mounting plate for the radiator to lift it up to a height needed to get the most airflow to the core. It's back to the drawing board, and Matt sketches up a draft for the top mounting bracket. 2 more bits of alloy are bent up and welded together to form a sturdy but easily removable mounting bracket. Matt then cuts off the standard push lock fittings and taps them to a 1/4 MPT thread for the coolant returns from the turbos. The brass barbs are just for test fitting. We will be using speed flow when the turbos require plumbing.
This is the radiator we're using in the car. It's out of a BMW 520D, so a diesel engine. It's basically, we went through the book to try and find a core that was the sort of the biggest we could fit and still allow for the intake pipe to go over the top. And this is it. So it's a genuine bare unit. We've just, because it's all alloy, we can cut the ends off. It had clip-on fittings on it, as BMW does. So Matt's cut them off and welded on just normal roll end hose fittings. Made a bracket mount to sort of sit it in the right place in the car. So that this is sort of lifting it up above the seam line, so it's got full airflow. Got a couple of spal fans on it, blowing. No, sucking? Yeah, they're sucking. So this is a pretty, although it's small, it looks like a high efficiency core. Does the job on the old Bimmer, so hopefully it'll work on a highly stressed, powerful LS1.
Next time, we carefully take the engine out and a few things are modified before it's ready to go back in the car.
In case you were wondering, this is my mower. This is a Cox mower, which is not related to Olcock. It's an Australian-built unit, one of the best mowers ever made.
It's the Australian Stockman.
This one is a Stockman. That's the particular model of it. Very impressive piece of gear. So no, I'm not going to turbo it. Don't ask. It's a stupid idea. But just bathe in its glory.